and Barron was outside having a tennis lesson. He's a good tennis player. He's outside.
Although Barron Trump grew up in the harsh glare of his father's presidency, nobody was ready for his most recent change, not even Donald and Melania Trump. The once quiet, reserved youngster who tended to avoid the spotlight has astonished everyone with a sudden transformation that brought both of his parents to tears. Many have been astounded by Barron's transformation into adulthood, both in terms of his towering height and his changing personality. A very tall son named Barron. Has anyone ever heard of him? However, what has changed specifically? Is it his impressive looks, his aspirations for the future, or something more profound? Although this change has been coming for some time, according to insiders, recent events have made it impossible to ignore. Barron's incredible transformation has left even the Trump family's closest members in stunned silence. Why this change? What are the private reactions of Melania and Donald? You won't want to miss this tale, so stay tuned as we reveal the astounding facts. See why Barron Trump has the world talking like never before by watching through to the end. I feel, that as children we teach them, we guide them, and then we give them the wings to fly. Barron homie is the king of the internet. He's the king of the internet. Oh, a charismatic side no one expected. Barron Trump, the son of one of the most talked about politicians in contemporary history, was a quiet figure for years, rarely making headlines. However, the world saw something very different on Inauguration Day 2025, a change that took center stage and even appeared to surprise Donald and Melania Trump. Naturally, all eyes were on Donald Trump as he stood at the podium and recited the oath of office for the second time. After all, a former president returning to the White House was a historic event. But in a matter of seconds, the focus drastically changed. Trump's youngest son, Barron, who is already an incredible 6 feet 9 inches tall, stood next to him. The quiet, almost elusive youngster during his father's first inauguration in 2017 stood in sharp contrast to his towering presence, well-fitted navy suit, and serene, collected manner. The young boy who had been kept out of the spotlight was now a self-assured, remarkably composed young man who exuded a quiet authority. For a brief moment, even Donald Trump appeared surprised, looking at Barron with a mixture of amazement and pride, as though realizing for the first time how much his youngest son had changed. Trump took a minute while speaking to the large gathering to make light of Barron's enormous height and maturity. Although the audience cheered and laughed, Barron's response was what really set social media on fire. Rather than backing off, he cupped his ear, urging even greater applause. It was a small but impactful gesture that demonstrated his newly discovered charm and self-assurance. This small gesture created a flurry of online rumors right away. Was this Barron's method of permanently entering the spotlight? Could this event portend something completely different, like a future in business or politics? There was no doubt that this was not the Barron Trump that the world had known in the past. Melania Trump had one of the day's most heartwarming moments. She had spent years making sure Barron grew up out of the harsh glare of politics and was well known for her fiercely private personality and unshakable commitment to protecting him. However, the emotion was too strong to contain on this particular day. As she watched her son stand tall, self-assured, and serene in the front row, her discreetly brushing away tears was captured on camera, a unique and very human moment that said 1,000 words. This was more than simply another inauguration for Melania. It was the result of years of hard work, self-control, and cautious parenting. Once a timid youngster, her son had now made his debut on the global scene in a manner that none had predicted. Barron had an entire level of Trump Tower where most kids share bedrooms or playrooms. Despite being born into a world of billionaires, this private place gave him a feeling of stability by allowing him to grow up away from the chaotic tornado of the Trump enterprise. Barron grew up mostly out of the spotlight, in contrast to his older siblings who were prepared for business and public life at a young age. With entire floors of gold-plated interiors, marble-clad halls, and private security guaranteeing his privacy, his early years in Trump Tower were nothing short of luxurious. Barron Trump's early years were very remarkable. He was born on March 20, 2006, and grew up in the opulent gold-plated interior of Trump Tower in New York City, where he was surrounded by power, wealth, and an unfathomable degree of privilege. Barron's world was far more isolated than that of his older siblings, Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, and Tiffany, who were all raised surrounded by their father's real estate empire and commercial interests. But in spite of the luxury, Melania Trump ensured that Barron's life was thoroughly organized. She kept him rooted in traditional values and rigorous discipline while raising him in multiple languages and making sure he spoke Slovenian fluently. His daily surroundings included expansive views of New York City, gilded chandeliers, and marble flooring. Nevertheless, his mother, Melania Trump, made a concerted effort to keep him grounded in spite of the extravagance. Melania adopted a very private approach to parenthood in contrast to Donald Trump, who delights in the spotlight. She was adamant about keeping Barron out of the spotlight and out of the political tumult surrounding his father's presidency. I said to my husband that, the language is inappropriate, it's not acceptable, and I was surprised because that is not the man that I know. Melania directly managed Barron's schooling, discipline, and daily schedule. In contrast to many affluent parents who assign childcare to nannies and tutors, she purposefully chose to keep Barron connected to his European roots by having him grow up speaking his mother's native tongue, Slovenian. She stressed the need for structure, discipline, and humility. Despite coming from a wealthy family, Barron was not brought up to be a pampered, wealthy child. Rather, he was brought up to value independence, responsibility, and respect. The self-assured and composed young man the world witnessed in 2025 was greatly influenced by this cautious parenting approach. Barron, the youngest Trump, had long been regarded as the family's mysterious member. Barron's interests had always been distinct from his older siblings, who had embraced the family's commercial and political empire at a young age. Barron has always been unique. Even though the Trump family is well known for its business and political affiliations, he spent hours making complex models and plans, which sparked his early interest in technology, digital design, and architecture. He dabbled in software development and coding, demonstrating his significant interest in technology. Even more unexpected, he was a talented drummer. He even demonstrated a love of music and drumming, which Melania had fostered. In sharp contrast to his father's business-oriented upbringing, Barron developed a strong affinity for music under the guidance of his mother. But as Inauguration Day 2025 showed, he also possessed something else, a commanding presence that couldn't be ignored. After making such a strong entrance into the public eye, speculation is now at an all-time high. Is Barron going to be like his father, or is he going to leave his own legacy? For Barron Trump, the 2025 inauguration marked a sea change in addition to being a historic day for Donald Trump, he had changed from being the youngest Trump child to a self-assured young man with a dominant demeanor. Many had questioned what kind of future he would choose because of his infrequent public appearances in the past. The media's interest in Barron started as soon as Donald Trump declared his intention to run for president in 2015. Every motion he made, every facial expression, and every public appearance he made were watched and examined. Barron was thrown into the spotlight at a very young age, in contrast to his older siblings who were used to media attention. Unfair conjecture of his character and actions resulted from this. Even seemingly insignificant details such as his gait, his facial expressions during events, or his attire were the subject of online discussion. Some unfairly misunderstood his mannerisms while others perceived him as a quiet, reserved child. Every time Barron was spotted in public, pictures and videos of him went viral online, frequently accompanied by inflated stories and baseless rumors. They talked about his height, his posture, and even how he behaved with his parents. The challenges of growing up in the White House. Barron was 10 years old in 2016 when Donald Trump was elected president. His young life underwent a dramatic change when he moved from the secluded haven of Trump Tower to the highly watched White House. While custom required the first family to move into the White House right away, Melania Trump made a historic choice by staying in New York for a few more months to allow Barron to complete his academic year at Columbia Grammar and Preparatory School. This action demonstrated her commitment to his security and welfare. When Barron finally relocated to Washington, D.C. in June 2017, he was confronted with an entirely new reality. The White House came with round-the-clock security, media scrutiny, and insatiable public interest. In contrast to Trump Tower, where he had a whole floor to himself, his entire childhood was watched. Secret Service personnel was with him at all times, whether he was playing on the White House grounds, going to school, or traveling with his parents. Barron had grown up under scrutiny for 4 critical formative years. By the time Trump's presidency ended in January 2021, his appearance, attire, and facial expressions were scrutinized online, even as a toddler. Although Barron avoided politics, he had the opportunity to observe firsthand how the presidency functioned, something that few teens can ever claim. Despite his youth, he nonetheless became the subject of online rumors and media conjecture. Melania adopted a different tack with her son than Donald Trump, who benefited greatly from public attention. She was committed to shielding Barron from the corrosive realm of celebrity and politics. Barron made very few public appearances. In contrast to previous first children like Sasha and Malia Obama, he was carefully shielded from the media glare and skipped the majority of public engagements. In 2017, Melania responded quickly to a Saturday Night Live writer's offensive joke about Barron, demonstrating her refusal to allow her son to be used as a political target. Melania swiftly filed a lawsuit to have a video that implied Barron might have autism taken down, and she publicly denounced the unfounded allegations. This showcased her protectiveness and fierce advocacy for her child's privacy. Liz, this Plainfield woman, will remain in federal custody after she appeared in court late today, and this after she allegedly admitted to federal agents that she sent a threatening email to the president and his son. Barron did not go to Sidwell Friends School, the esteemed school where Chelsea Clinton, Sasha and Malia Obama, and other first children received their education, in contrast to the majority of children of current presidents. Instead, Melania personally decided that he should attend St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Maryland. Why St. Andrew's? Melania wants a more exclusive and demanding academic setting where Barron could fit in as much as possible. Barron's classmates characterized him as courteous, earnest, and extremely focused, displaying a self-reliant and quiet attitude instead of pursuing attention. Despite constantly being watched by Secret Service personnel, Barron made an effort to fit in with his peers and lead a typical school life. The family moved to Mar-a-Lago, their opulent residence in Palm Beach, Florida, following the conclusion of Trump's administration. Many people thought Barron would eventually become a typical adolescent, but that wasn't the case. Although Barron was no longer the first kid, the public's obsession with him persisted, and he was still followed by paparazzi. Barron had to discover his identity beyond politics and the Trump name. After 4 years in the White House, being Donald Trump's kid adds a whole new level of strain to the already difficult time that is adolescence. Barron began making small but important steps to forge his own personality as he approached adolescence. Barron's height had already surpassed his father's by the time he was 15. He became a towering figure at 6 feet 7 inches and later 6 feet 9 inches, raising questions about whether he would play basketball. Barron had no desire to enter the economic or political spheres. Rather, his acquaintances characterized him as quiet, wise, and unconcerned with celebrity for its own sake. Many people thought Barron would play basketball because of his amazing height, but he took a different route. Barron has been playing football since he was a little boy, playing for youth teams in Florida and Washington, D.C. Barron wanted to be successful based on his abilities, not his family. In contrast to other famous children who utilize their last name as a boost, Barron was able to focus on something unrelated to his father's legacy since football gave him a feeling of normalcy. A new era, a new Barron. Donald Trump's older children, Ivanka, Eric, and Donald Jr., returned to their well-known roles as he prepared for the much-anticipated 2024 presidential campaign. However, what about Barron? Barron reportedly started sharing views behind the scenes even though he wasn't giving speeches or attending rallies. The strategist for digitalization, Barron reportedly contributed to digital outreach, especially for younger voters. In contrast to the older Trump children who concentrated on conventional campaign activities, Barron allegedly promoted new digital tactics as the political debate moved online, ranging from producing viral campaign content to interacting with younger audiences on new platforms. In sharp contrast to his father's audacious public-facing approach, Barron used technology and media to subtly influence narratives rather than make public appearances. Barron was much less noticeable than in prior elections. In spite of this purported effect, Barron chose to remain in the background in 2024 instead of 2016 and 2020 when he was regularly spotted at campaign rallies. Others thought he was just waiting for the proper opportunity to come forward, while others questioned whether this indicated he was withdrawing from politics. Insiders wondered if Barron was just a spectator or if he was covertly laying the groundwork for a future position in the Trump family. As election night finished with a Trump victory, in addition to being a momentous political occasion, Donald Trump's inauguration in 2025 marked a turning point in Barron Trump's life. Barron was the tallest person in the group, standing at 6 feet 9 inches, so it was hard to miss him. He sparked a social media frenzy with his understated sophistication while wearing a crisp navy suit. This time he appeared to fit in, unlike in previous years when he appeared hesitant at public gatherings. In his inaugural address, Donald Trump turned to Barron and made a light-hearted comment as he introduced his family. "My son is tall. Does anyone know who he is?" The audience applauded and laughed, but what followed was surprising. Rather than backing off, Barron waved and nodded to the audience, a gesture that was little indeed but enormous in impact. Barron cued his palm to his ear in response to the audience's louder cheers, causing an even greater outcry. Barron's style was calm, collected, and captivating in its own right, as opposed to his father's, who thrived on theatrics. The incident went viral right away, igniting discussions on social media. Was Barron growing accustomed to being in the spotlight? Some perceived it as a passing of the torch moment. Others made predictions about his future, wondering if he would go into business, politics, or stay in the private sector. Because so little was known about him, he was fascinating, and many people just liked his mystique. Donald Trump has never held back when complimenting his older children, particularly on their political and economic endeavors. Trump, however, has a different tone when speaking about Barron. He is very strong and intelligent. Shows the First Lady Melania Trump's popularity moving higher. Her favorability now stands at 54%, that's up from 51% from a similar poll back in June. Although Trump hasn't mentioned Barron as often, when he has, it's usually with a sense of anticipation. He acknowledges Barron's presence and brilliance. He acknowledges his talent but does not encourage him to pursue a career in business or politics. He is aware that Barron has inherited a special talent, the innate capacity to command attention even when remaining silent. But now Donald is waiting, watching, wondering. Melania Trump, Barron's mother, has always been a devoted defender of his privacy. However, it was an emotional moment at the inauguration to see her kid enter the public eye in a very different way. According to family members, Melania was crying as she watched Barron demand attention in his own unique manner. A mother's commitment paid off as she witnessed her kid mature after raising him with discipline, independence, and structure. Seeing Barron hold his own without uttering a word must have been a powerful moment for Donald Trump, whose reputation has been based on controlling a room. Barron had grown to have a more subdued but no less remarkable influence than his older children, who talked boldly and assumed leadership responsibilities. A potential Trump leader? According to certain theories, Donald himself might have been considering whether Barron would eventually inherit the family's role, the mystery of the future Trump legacy. As the 2025 inauguration unfolded, one thing became clear: Barron Trump was no longer just the quiet, private son of a former president. He had changed into a fascinating, promising young guy who sparked fresh discussions about what might be in store for him in the future. Would he end up representing the Trump political family in a new way? Would he forge out on his own, independent of his father's legacy? As the world looked on, conjecture ran wild. Barron Trump's 2025 inauguration was a turning point in his life, not just another milestone in American politics. He had been a quiet, almost enigmatic person for years, in sharp contrast to his talkative siblings and his flamboyant father. Now, though, something changed. In the world, Barron Trump was more than just the youngest Trump anymore. He had a commanding presence, a serene assurance, and an indisputable charm. He stepped into the spotlight and was his person. The Trump family's influence in American politics and business was once again solidified with Donald Trump's election to a second term. Barron Trump, however, was a new element in the mix this time. Donald Jr., Eric, and Ivanka, the well-known faces, His elder siblings had long held important positions in both politics and the Trump Organization. Within the family business, they had established their brands. Barron, the curious, unusual card, he was particularly intriguing because he was the only one who hadn't yet decided on a public position. Would he enter the family company or forge his own path? Barron would enter politics with a clear edge if he decided to pursue it. He was born into it, so he wouldn't need to prove it. His reserved nature could contrast nicely with the bombastic Trump image, making him a fresh and appealing figure. He could appeal to tech-savvy generations and younger people. However, there is conjecture that if Donald decides to pursue business, he may branch out from real estate and expand the Trump enterprise into new sectors. Given his keen interest in digital platforms and games, he could lead a tech company under the Trump name. The Trump name has the potential to spread throughout the financial industry. Barron has the potential to become a diplomatic force that connects multinational corporations thanks to his bilingual skills and European contacts. The world is currently watching, anticipating his next move. Will he go into politics and give the Trump brand a fresh look? Will he start his own company and transform the family business? Or will he forge a completely other route, going against the grain? Donald Trump sees something in Barron that the world is only now starting to realize. Barron will inevitably be compared to his elder siblings fully involved in the Trump business empire. Donald Jr. and Eric are regularly spotted at political gatherings and media appearances. Ivanka Trump created her brand, played a significant part in her father's administration, and struck a balance between politics and business. Tiffany Trump maintained a quiet profile, concentrating more on her personal life and legal work. In this spectrum, where does Barron fit in? Unlike Donald Jr., he hasn't made a strong political statement. He isn't as business-driven as Ivanka, yet, though his height, charisma, and recent public appearance imply otherwise. He may follow Tiffany's example and keep to himself. Barron might not be a mystery for long. If the 2025 inauguration moment was any guide, Barron was the invisible Trump for years, growing up in private while the rest of his family made headlines. The change is now indisputable. He exudes confidence. He is calm. He is assuming his own persona. The youngest child of Donald and Melania Trump is no longer the only description of Barron Trump. He is a young man who is about to leave his mark. As Barron Trump embarks on his own journey, Donald and Melania Trump are overcome with emotion. Was this the turning point in the Trump legacy's history? Will Barron choose to forge his path or follow in his father's footsteps? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more unique updates and captivating stories. This is far from the end of the narrative, so stay tuned.